Sometimes you just really need a drink, but you're not really in the mood to sip on rum neat, but you're also too lazy to make a cocktail, so what do? Well, you meet in the middle and make yourself a 50-50 shot. If you're not familiar with it, a 50-50 shot is a flavorful shot that's usually equal parts either a spirit and a bittersweet herbal Amaro, or it might be a spirit and a liqueur. Sometimes it's two different Amaros, but since this is a rum channel, I wanted to highlight a number of 50-50 shots that include rum. Now I know what you might be saying, shots, why are you talking about shots? I thought this was a refined and classy YouTube channel. Well folks, I'm here to say that shots don't have to be about getting wasted or going clubbing or whatever. They're equally valid ways of consuming rum. Like, I gotta imagine that there's more shots of rum taken in a day than say like neat pours of any Foursquare ECS. That kind of feels right? So why can't us rum nerds get in on the fun? What's great about 50-50 shots is that with the inclusion of an Amaro or a liqueur, you're actually lowering the ABV of the shot. And doesn't the inclusion of a fancy Italian Amaro just kind of class up the whole thing? And also, when drunk responsibly, they're a great way of sharing a moment with a friend or to kickstart or wrap up an evening of drinking. And look, if doing shots is not your thing, these blends that I'm gonna feature in this video can be enjoyed as neat sippers as well. With that out of the way, here are a couple of 50-50 rum shots that I enjoy. Now when it comes to rum and 50-50 shots, probably the most popular example is a blend of Jamaican rum and Cynar. Cynar is an Amaro made from 13 different plants and herbs, including artichoke, and it has this herbaceous, earthy, vegetal quality to it. Now when it comes to the shot, you can obviously mix this with a number of different Jamaican rums. I think the most common example is probably Appleton Signature. It ends up being a lighter shot, a little bit of the fruitier elements from the Signature come through, but I personally prefer it with Worthy Park 109. This is a blend of a higher ester unaged rum with a lower ester rum aged about 3 years in ex-bourbon. Those rums are blended together and then a whole bunch of spirit caramel is added to get us this color. And to prove that these can actually be enjoyed as neat sippers as well as shots, we'll start off with a little sip. Cheers. Oh yeah. Ooh. Unlike using the Appleton Signature, this is much more of a richer, more molasses forward shot thanks to the Worthy Park. There's a good amount of bitterness because I think the Worthy Park 109 has some bitterness to it as well. I think in part because of all that spirit caramel that's added. So that bitterness combined with the Cynar's bitterness kind of gets really ramped up, but then you have the rich texture of the molasses notes, and there's also some booziness there as well to make it pretty impactful on the palate. Honestly, it kind of tastes like a condensed down, boozy, bitter cola syrup. It's like a rich, bitter Dr. Pepper or something like that. That's actually super tasty, and frankly, it'd probably make a good base for a cocktail. Well, it tastes great neat, but let's try it as a shot. Cheers. Ooh, a lot of that vegetal artichoke note really came through in the shot, but it was coated with all that kind of molasses. And on the back end now, I'm getting a little bit of bitterness. And it's really that lingering bitterness that I think really kind of balances out the whole experience. Frankly, I think this is a perfect like before or after dinner shot. And yes, I'm gonna be taking more shots in this video, but in full kind of disclosure, I'm not all doing them back to back to back. I'm taking breaks in between cuts, and actually I'm going to film this over the course of a day or two, so you're actually going to see hopefully not too much continuity errors, but just being responsible and not doing like 6 shots all in like the span of like 30 minutes. Or am I? Moving on, I do think that Jamaican rums play really well in 50-50 shots, so let's do another one, but this time let's lean into the tropical nature of Jamaican rums. So let's take Hampden Estate 8-year, which is a wild fermented pot still rum with notes of like grilled pineapple, and let's blend it with Heirloom Pineapple Amaro. This is made with Queen Victoria pineapples, cassia bark from Jamaica, and other botanicals and spices. It has notes of like a savory pineapple and a woodsy bitterness on the finish. Now I think this pairs particularly well with rums from Hampden Estate. That is like 3-dimensional pineapple. It's pineapple with a touch of cardamom. Honestly, this basically tastes like a tropical cardamom vanilla custard. Like, and the great thing is like no one note like dominates it. It's surprisingly balanced. All right, cheers. Ooh, there's sweetness, there's bitterness, there's like baking spiciness. this really kind of multifaceted pineapple. It's a savory pineapple, it's a grilled pineapple, it's a fermented pineapple, and it's balanced by these really great notes of baking spices. It's cardamom, it's cinnamon, there's a little bit of cloves there as well. It's such a great balance, and there's sweetness for sure, but there's also a good amount of like booziness there as well, so it doesn't feel overly cloying at all. And honestly, now on the finish, I'm getting a little bit of coconut as well. I don't know where that's coming from. It's from the alchemy of the two bottles, but it's just this really nice, light, kind of delicate coconut that it serves as a little bit of an accent on the finish. Now, if a bottle of Hampden 8-year feels maybe too pricey to do a shot with, then honestly, Rumfire absolutely is a great option. Though, you know, it is high in ABV, so to keep the proof down, I'd actually recommend going like 3/4 of the Heirloom Pineapple Amaro and then only 1/4 of the Rumfire. Now, if you thought the last shot, the Cynar and Appleton, sounded maybe a little too herbaceous or too vegetal, then I think this might be more of your speed. Now, one of the most popular 50-50 shots in general is the Maserati, which is a blend of Mezcal and Ramazzotti. Now, Ramazzotti is an Amaro that consists of a blend of 33 fruits and herbs and botanicals, including bitter orange, cardamom, clove, and star anise. It has notes of like root beer, orange, and a decent amount of bitterness. So the Maserati is actually one of my favorite 50-50s, but since we're talking rum, what I like to do is swap the Mezcal for another unaged, big, bold, expressive spirit, so I go with some Haitian Clairin. Usually I go with Clairin Communal. So this is a blend of 4 different unaged, wild fermented cane juice spirits with like a vegetal, grassy flavor profile. Let's give it a try. Don't they look really nice together? All right, let's give it a little sip. Ooh, she gets like really big pop of like orange, followed by some bitterness. And then that's followed by like a hint of sugarcane. All right, cheers. Ooh, it's remarkable how well they blend together. I'm getting so much like wild cane up front. Like really, it feels like I'm transported into cane fields, like the smell of cane and just like being around it and like actually like chewing on like the fibrous like stalks. And obviously there's a lot of sweetness coming from that sugar cane, but then it's like undercut by like this like note of bitterness coming from the Ramazzotti. Woo! But then that bitterness also turns herbaceous and a little sweet, and it's just a great kind of experience on the palate. Now here's the thing, this shot also works really well with the other Clairins in the Spirit of Haiti lineup. Now it will bump up the proof and they will be a little more expensive, but I think it's kind of worth it. And what's great is that each one of those Clairins changes the flavor profile of the shot. So with Clairin Vival, you end up with this really cool like dill pickle finish. With Clairin Casimir, you end up with this really cool like pineapple note. And with Saujuice, you end up with some really cool notes of like mintiness and menthol. Next up, on the sweeter side of things, one of my favorite Amaros is Averna. Now this is a kind of blend of a number of herbs, roots, and spices. We do know that it includes pomegranate as well as lemon and orange essential oils. It's definitely sweeter than some of the other Amaros I featured so far. It has notes of cola, vanilla, and licorice. So I really like to mix this with some Auva Amburana cachaça. So this is a Brazilian cane juice spirit that's been aged up to 2 years in Amburana wood, which imparts like these warm cinnamon and cedar notes. Now I first tried these 2 ingredients along with some bourbon in a hot toddy recipe that I love, so I figured let's just cut to the chase and just try these 2 together by themselves. And that's what we're gonna do. That is super tasty. It is cinnamon and caramel. That's predominantly the note I'm getting on the palate. In a way, it kind of tastes a little bit like cinnamon toast crunch, yeah? And there's like some creaminess here as well. And that kind of evokes like the cinnamon toast crunch being in a bowl of milk. Now that either may or may not sound appealing to you, I guess, depends on where you land on your rum tasting like a bowl of cereal. But if you're looking for like a slightly dessertier kind of 50-50 shot, this is really it. All right, cheers. Oh yeah. Oh, it's actually probably so much better as a shot than sipping it neat, though you can. It was sweet, it was creamy, caramel, some of that cola. There's some like herbaceousness as well. And that cinnamon kind of just lovingly coats the inside of your mouth. It is a really nice experience. If you're looking for like a after dinner shot that's slightly desserty, this combination is the way to go. So I absolutely love Mr. Black coffee liqueur. I'm always looking for excuses to drink some of this stuff. I use it all the time to make espresso martinis. Like with the Maserati, this works really well with mezcal. But again, since this is the rum revival, I also like to mix this with some Charanda Uruapan Blanco. Now this is a blend of both cane juice and molasses from Michoacan in Mexico, and it has this really nice charcoaly ashy flavor profile. Man, that is so tasty. That is perfect. So that charcoal and ash note from the Charanda really plays well here with like the roasty, slightly bitter notes of the coffee, but it's all really well balanced by the sweetness that's in the liqueur. Cheers. Ooh. Honestly, that just tasted like a smoky latte, like an espresso martini without all of the hassle of making an espresso and then mixing it all together. You know how I said like the previous shot with the Averna and the cachaça was a great after dinner shot? I think this might be just as good, if not better, of an after dinner shot. I think if you're someone who really likes to drink a little bit of coffee after a really great meal, I think this kind of scratches that same itch if you wanted something with a little bit of booze in it. So there you go, those are some of the 50-50 shots that I enjoy. And look, the great thing about all this is that there are so many different combinations out there. And the fun part of it is experimenting and trying to see what works and what doesn't work. And I'm not gonna lie, I tried very hard to make Maduri work, but yeah, not so much. Now, I'm curious, do you have a favorite go-to blend of rum and Amaro or rum and a liqueur? I'd love to know, so leave a comment down below. Now, if you're interested in checking out some exclusive behind-the-scenes content and first impressions videos where I try a rum for the very first time and give you my gut reaction to it, then consider checking out and supporting me on Patreon. I have tons of content there that I think you'll really like. Well, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time. Cheers.